Hello everyone. In this video, I would honestly like to talk about my personal thoughts about the recent episodes of Steven Universe Future. My thoughts about the recent episodes, I would say they have been epic and interesting, along with the fact that honestly it's just being real to me and relatable. Why I say it's real and relatable, especially someone around my age or whatever, it would be just the fact that, for one, honestly, it teaches gems, honestly, recent. Well, it teaches honestly gems to find their place, find their center within honestly normal society itself, and just forget about the war, forget about the past that occurred, which was the gym war a long time ago. And that's what makes it interesting to me. Now, another interesting fact about it is it's not only just the fact of you trying to find what your niche is and what your purpose in life is, or I guess trying to enjoy life along with also trying to find your niche and whatever, which honestly most gyms are trying to do. Because by the end of the day, here's the thing, honestly, when it comes to gyms learning about what their purposes are, because honestly, it's a double edged blade for them. The first edge of the blade would be the positive, easy way. The positive, easy way, as in, honestly, they can do jobs on Earth that were similar to what they did in Homeworld or did for Homeworld, which would be honestly any job that has to do with their primary function now the of their gyms, which would be for one thing. One example would be some gyms, like Paradigm for a good example. They're good with technology and they're smart, and on top of that, they can build things, and te- they're technical savvy. They're technical savvy. Long story short, they know how to build things. They know how to troubleshoot things. And then you have other gyms honestly, for example, like the Rubies. They're good for honestly bodyguards. They're more muscle and they're very protective as well too. Whether it be for someone that they care about or whether it be someone that's like an authority figure per se. Which honestly, by the end of the day, I would strongly say that's not the first time that any type of fiction had went that route of having, said iconic character or fictional iconic characters watch over a big figurehead person, I don't know, for example, like a mayor or president. Because by the end of the day, I'm saying this respectfully, but in Marvel Comics, for a good example, I've honestly heard certain stories, like for example X-23, which was Logan's, aka Wolverine's, clone slash daughter, legit daughter, since honestly she is made out of Logan's DNA. It's just the fact that there were some comics where they talked about some scientists actually legit cloned made more clones of Laura somehow, and then honestly appointed them to have a functional purpose of looking after like a mayor or honestly a president, just basically doing different jobs that deal with security work or being like a bodyguard of some sort. Which honestly I don't doubt, arguably, because by the end of the day, Wolverine's, aka Laura's DNA makeup structure itself and their tendencies and personalities, they're strong, they're feral in a sense, and on top of that, they're very protective. So yeah, those are excellent genes to have when it comes to hiring someone or creating someone to do a bodyguard shift or a security shift. But aside from all that, that's one aspect that I find interesting about it. Now, the thicker part, the real thicker and really deep and interesting thing that I find about Steven Universe Future itself would be honestly episodes to where you have certain gyms where they were had antagonistic roles towards Steven. I mean, every gym from Homeworld essentially, or most gyms from Homeworld essentially were like antagonistic towards Steven. It's just the fact that these particular gyms, ooh, they are really antagonistic. Except for Jasper. I feel like Jasper is like she's in the middle. It's like honestly, she did make like a statement around the first episode of Future where she's like, "You're not my diamond," and on top of that, honestly, you got all these people around you manipulating them and stuff to go by your word, just like how you normally do. But aside from that, you're just not my diamond altogether, and it's just wow for one because technically honestly, Steven is like her diamond, and on top of that, through like status wise, she should be like honestly more understanding and more like a soldier for Steven because by the end of the day, Jasper knows the truth, and on top of that, if she doesn't know, if she goes to diamonds like white diamond or honestly blue to yellow, they would acknowledge the fact that yeah, that's Steven. That's essentially Pink's son slash Pink herself because by the end of the, well, literally Pink herself because by the end of the day in the show, they don't look at the gym like physicality. They don't look at at any gym, physical structure. They look at the light and what's coming from the light of the gym itself. That's why they all acknowledge anyone can acknowledge Steven as Pink still because that's her gym. They just have no choice but to acknowledge Steven as being Steven because for one, Steven always saying, I'm not my mom, I'm Steven. And then second thing is also because of the fact of well, Pink literally lost her like physical structure slash life form towards Steven, giving birth to him. But aside from all of that, Jasper is a good example of my interest with the show because honestly, when both Steven and Jasper was fighting and throwing hands, ooh, they got me riled up and interested. Just as much as Jasper getting real riled up and interested when she was like, "Oh yeah, let the throwing hands begin, fam." And when they started, honestly, I could see that Steven over time, just like how in the movie Steven like improved in his fighting skills and his savagery, he also I can see that he improved in his like fighting tactic as well too a little bit. It may be more of on the defensive side, but at the same time it's still very effective because Lord, honestly, he was maneuvering and on top of that putting in some shots in towards Jasper. Long story short. And another thing I had to point out would be just the fact of in the fight would be just the fact that he unlocked that unknown power with inside of him, which would be Pink's aura slash Pink's likability. Why I said Pink's aura slash Pink likability is because his face literally turns pink and his whole body turns pink, and like he's going like Gem Super Saiyan or Diamond Super Saiyan and just about to whoop like Jasper's butt right there and then. He literally creates a crater right where Jasper was flying up in the air after he gave her like a good uppercut cut that made her fly up the air and then just bashed her right down back to Earth to where there's a crater looking deeper than the one that she came out of from beta kindergarten. Like, um, aside from all that, yeah, that's my interest. Another interest that I would say about this would be, well, honestly, the obvious gem that just came out of nowhere, which is kind of funny, but at the same time disgusting at the same time, would be the concept of Bluebird. Now, what's interesting about Bluebird is, for one, the design. I like Bluebird's design by having eyeball being still relevant, and honestly, they're around the same area where eyeballs, of course, gem is around her eye. And then you have Aquamarine's gem still on her cheek in a funny way, like a teardrop. And both gems are literally on honestly Bluebird's face, which is interesting. Another real interesting thing about Bluebird would be honestly when both of them team up and they actually somehow create their weapon, which is a whole like sword slash like rapier, and that thing was ridiculous. Like they literally drew out a sword and then just honestly created like tier, just like Aquamarine's like gem. They created like bubbles or tier like bubbles come out of nowhere like spheres, like it's Dragon Ball Z, and then next those spheres slash like tear bubbles turn into like swords, and it was just ridiculous. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. This is badass at the same time. I just had to say that one thing. This is pretty badass. My bad for saying that, but it was pretty badass to me. Um, Aside from all of that, now what's interesting about Bluebird's like transformation is not only the design, but honestly both the interesting but disgusting topic of how they fuse together. Like what's interesting is, well, for one, the interesting concept is just the design slash physique, and honestly, what their powers are, which is mainly ice based and brute strength based. Along, well, the brute strength being there's a sword. The ice base is mainly from Aquamarine because most blue gems do have the ability of either manipulating water or freezing things or creating ice or manipulating ice itself. But aside from all of that, it's honestly those are interesting aspects of Bluebird. The other interesting but disgusting aspect of it is how they fuse. Now, why is there like a whole combination with me with Bluebird's like combination of both disgust and interest is because of the fact of arguably, I would like to say that it's a new fusion. Now, why I say it's an interesting new fusion, and these are my thoughts. It's an interesting new fusion because of the fact that Bluebird is honestly the main function of Bluebird itself as a fusion is not because of beautiful, warm like emotions that are very immensely loving and caring for both gems, or it be to where both gems have like honestly I guess one goal involved to obtain a certain goal or either trying to do something to like accomplish anything that they want to do. No, it's not any of those things. I mean, I guess arguably accomplishing a goal is one thing on how Bluebird fuses, but it's a disgusting way of how they do it. The disgusting way how they do it is because of the fact that both gems, both Eyeball and both Aquamarine had like an antagonistic like relationship towards Stephen, and they still hate him. And out of all that hate and anger towards Stephen, it's despite they literally use those negative emotions just to fuse together to make one strong, like infamous, like entity, which is Bluebird, which not only again, like I said many times before, it's mind-boggling and interesting physically, but also it's interesting and mind-boggling on how two gems can literally fuse together with negative emotions. I guess to be somewhat fair, just like how I brought up the accomplishment thing, as a thing of possibly being one thing, because by the end of the day, even though it's out of hate, they still want to do one thing, and that's get revenge on Stephen. But aside from all that, it's just honestly another thing that I had to bring up when it comes to negative emotions is, I guess to be fair, Sugar did like foreshadow this, just like how in the Spinell slash special slash movie, she did like kind of foreshadow that gems can hypothetically shatter slash, well, not shatter, but they can like poof slash kill themselves by being over emotional over things. Like, for a good example, a gym can, if a gym is too happy or having too much fun, they can literally explode by feeling too much happiness. Or for Spinell's case, if they're too sad and too depressed, then they can literally poof themselves and then reconstruct themselves over time through their physical structure and come back a certain different type of form. But aside from all that, yeah, it's interesting. Now, what foreshadowed towards Bluebird, now I'm referring to, would be Malachite. The Malachite reference, I would like to bring up the fact that Malachite is a good reference because of the fact of it's mainly, I would like to say it's Jasper's fusion mostly. I mean, like, assumably, in a way, maybe Lapis and Jasper possibly fused one time accidentally, perhaps once. But I'm sorry, y'all, it's just been a while. But maybe they once fused on accident, but then the second time when Jasper learned that they could literally fuse for some reason, honestly, she wanted Malachi back, but Lapis didn't want to fuse back with Jasper. The only reason why Lapis was willing to fuse was because she could honestly imprison Jasper away from causing harm towards Steven, which honestly makes it toxic or messed up like um, gem creation or gem fusion like relationship, which in a way is both kind of disgusting for both honestly sides of that said fusion, which is Malachite, but then at the same time is both noble and loving because of the fact of Lapis did have good intentions of keeping Jasper away from Stephen, long story short. But aside from all that, yeah, it's very interesting because I guess Malachite, like I said before, is a very good reference toward Bluebird. Both sides, the only difference is both gems slash both sides always, I guess, want to have one aim or one target, which is getting back at Steven and somehow find a way to get revenge. And if I had to make one other pop culture reference, it'll be honestly the interesting thing when Eddie and the whole like relationship in Spider-Man with Eddie Brock and Venom. Why I reference Venom slash Eddie Brock and Venom, long story short, is because of the fact of, well, technically before there was anti-hero Venom or like, different types of character development for Eddie Brock himself and Venom together in different ways through comics over the years. It's just the fact that Venom himself, whether it be Eddie Brock and Venom together or both sides combining with each other, they literally have like an understanding with each other and have like a fluently good relationship together because of the fact that both of them hate Peter Parker slash hate Spider-Man and they want revenge. Venom wanted revenge toward Peter slash Spider-Man because he felt like he was thrown away, like he was unwanted and rejected, while Brock, he wanted revenge because he kind of blamed Peter for obviously making him lose his job or also like messing up his reputation as an individual, which makes it harder for him to honestly get back on his feet a little bit and find him another job, a different one. I mean, over time he can in in like other ways or other methods. But at the same time, it's going to make it a little challenging because by the end of the day, you kind of put his career on the rocks, and on top of that, that just made him lose his job. So it's like it's very arguable. That's how you have Venom himself created, just like you have Bluebird towards Steven. Both entities are both like characters, or I guess individual like characters, which is Bluebird or Venom. They both are the same or similar. The only difference is I think Bluebird arguably is way more interesting and have way more layers because we're talking about gems here, people. Gems, long story short, most of the time, the most successful fusions, like 120%, are like the fusions to where it's out of love or honestly trying to have care and compassion and have compassion of honestly answering to like a goal or honestly having good intentions of answering to certain like good honest responsibilities one way or the other. If I had to like make one good more good reference before I end this video, it would be when Aquamarine got debuted with Topaz, which was her right hand, because Topaz was the strength, while Aquamarine was more of the brains. But aside from all that, Topaz is a good example of responsibilities because by the end of the day, honestly, Topaz fusion is consisted of two topazes put together. But the thing is, Topaz has admitted to herself towards Steven that Topaz love each other. Both topazes love each other and they want to stay fused, but they don't want to fuse together over and over again just to answer a job for Homeworld or be a soldier like individual for Homeworld. They just want to stay fused as lovers or to commemorate their love for each other. Same thing or similar, like how like like Sapphire and Ruby like stay together and make Garnet. It's very similar. Or honestly, if I had to make another reference, kind of the same thing with Steven and Connie making Stevani. And honestly, if I had to say anything, if I had to say anything for their functionality for Stevani, it would be just their responsibility together would be just not only to accomplish goals and accomplish steps in their lives together, fighting the world or fighting anything that flies against them or throws against them. It's also the fact that Stevani's functionality would be just loving each other and honestly caring for each other all the time because Steven always has protected like Connie the best that he could, along with Connie protecting and fighting for Steven as well too with her swordsmanship and swordsman skills. Or swordwoman skills. Or swordplay. Let's just say swordplay just to be more fair in a good way. But that's honestly my final thoughts about Steven Universe future and my thoughts about all characters that were the most interesting to me. Please leave a like if you like this video and please subscribe. And also please spread this video as well too as much as you can. And also please also leave any comments of your thoughts as well too about this topic. Thank you and bye.